Well, hello everybody. How are you? I've been away again, doing things. But first, I want to tell you a little about me so that you'll know that what I'm getting ready to make this video about from now on is spirituality versus Christianity. I am a spiritualist. I've been that way all my life. I remember hearing when I was a little girl, mother would take us to church, and the people would talk about the Bible and Jesus and all of that. And I just never could believe it. Something barred me from believing the story. So one day I asked my mother about it, and I said, Mother, what about God allowing people to write his book? That doesn't seem right. If he's so smart, why didn't he write the book himself? And she was looking at me like, I have no idea. So from that point on, I was all confused about Christianity. Because to me, the Creator, if he could create a universe, then of course he could write a book. That was the way I looked at it. So, as time went on, I realized, because my mother told me, that she never really bought the story either, but she was such a community leader and person and wanted to help people. She was a big member of the church. Let me tell you about my family. That might help you a little bit. I was born into a wonderful, great family. I was born in Georgia, in a small town. My father was a successful businessman. He made plenty of money. He always knew that you had to have more than one stream of income, so he did that. His main business was a grocery store, and he said that he opened the store because he knew people would always want to eat, so he had a store. And it wasn't a small mom and pop store. It was a big store. He had everything. He would go to different cities, even New York, and find things that they were selling, and he would buy it and sell it at the store. And our store became a meeting point for people in my hometown. On Saturday, people would come up to the store. It was a big lot, and they would buy groceries and sit out and talk. So he decided to make a business of that. He put up tables and would sell sodas at his own yard. My daddy was a businessman. And therefore, we lived a really, really good life. Not only, not only was he a grocery store owner, a community leader, he was head of the deacon board at our church. My family was one of those prominent families when we were growing up in a small town. So everybody knew the Merritts, and everybody knew my mother had 6 children, and I was number 5. But they never saw me that much because I was always sickly and always in the house. Sometimes they would say, and there's another daughter, but no one ever sees her. So as I grew up, I realized I had these powers or something. I couldn't really figure out what they were until my mother explained it to me that she had them too. So we would sit around and talk about what we knew. We didn't have people guiding us from Yale and all that madness. My grandma was gifted. My mama was gifted. My grandma on my daddy's side was very, very gifted beyond. And she was my mentor in a way. She lived right next door. Back in that time, families were very, very close. Your grandma was not, it was not uncommon, rather, but a grandmother lived right next door, sometimes in the same house. But like I said, my family was prominent, so my dad had built her house next to ours. He built our house, and he built my grandma's house next door. Not only was he a carpenter, he was a businessman. My daddy was very popular, so he made a lot of money doing a lot. He said that You got to do a lot of stuff to make a lot of money. And I got these 6 children. I got to feed them. My daddy had a 3rd grade education, and he was smarter than any man at Harvard or Yale. He was a good-looking man, a man of much attraction. So, you know, women liked him. But anyway, we had a wonderful growing up period. I was able to explore myself. I was able to think about things. I was able to never have to worry about things. My only question was, when I started school, was, did I want to wear a new dress today, or did I want to wear something I already worn? That's just how our life was. It was very, very unusual, but at the time I didn't realize it. I thought it was natural. My dad also, I told you he was a big church man. He was the head of the deacon board, but he also sold liquor as one of his side tricks and trades, rather, and that made him a lot of money. My daddy sold liquor for my granddad, my mother's father, whose family were some of the biggest bootleggers in that part of Georgia. My grandfather, my mother's father, lived, and his family lived on 100 acres of land. It was 10 boys, and they all contributed to the making of the liquor. Everybody bought from them, everybody, including the sheriffs, everybody bought liquor from my grandfather and his family. So naturally, my dad, who was a very good businessman, he was the distributor for my granddad. So we always had a lot of stuff going on in our house. We always had a lot of people going on. My mother never worked. All she did was figure out how to spend daddy's money, and he was happy about that. I remember as kids one year, me and my sister, I had one sister, and there were 4 boys and 2 girls. Me and my sister were so eager about Christmas, we ended up having $4 apiece that year. We couldn't wait every year for Sears Roebuck to bring that book down the street, baby. Bring the mailman to bring the book to the store so we can start looking and figuring out what we were going to have for Christmas. The day after Christmas, you come to our house. Our house was like a return room at the department store with all the boxes and papers and stuff. Everybody always got what they wanted. Everybody always got extra gifts because mother liked to surprise you. You got all your gifts you wanted, and then she would buy you something new. So we spent like a week after Christmas just playing with the new stuff that we had gotten. So that was my life. I never knew about the bad racism and all of that madness that was going on in Georgia because we were protected and we lived in a place where my grandmama she used to call it white folk free. She didn't like white people, and she really didn't tolerate them. And because of who my father was, they never really bothered us. Not even the sheriff. Not even the sheriff who my daddy used to pay off every other Monday. He would come down to the store to pick up his money because Americus was a dry county. They didn't sell liquor in my hometown. So that was what I grew up, the atmosphere I grew up. So I had plenty of time to just sit and think. And since I had some kind of gift or something, my mother would spend a lot of time with me trying to help me understand what it was and how it was affecting me, and also how it was embarrassing her. Because like I said, there were always people in my world. And sometimes in the beginning, I would blurt out things to them. And they would be so shocked that I would know these things. And my mother would be so embarrassed. And she would say, "Oh, girl, stop." And so one day she told me, she said, "Look, don't do that. I know you have powers or gifts, and you want to help people, and you want to tell them something, but you shock them. They don't know that you all right. They would think that you are crazy. So just don't do it." So that was a gathering. My mother would always have people over for different fish fries and parties and whatever else. She loved to entertain, and she had the money to entertain, and she just had more fun than she needed. And one Saturday we were having guests over for dinner, or fish fry or something. So she called me. She says, "Look, let me tell you." She was dressing me and combing my hair and looking me at. Look, it's gonna be a lot of people here that don't know who you are, and they don't want to be embarrassed. So what? I don't want you to say anything to these people. Don't blurt out stuff. Just keep your mouth closed. And I was like, oh, okay, Ma. Okay, Ma, I can do that. I can do that. So the party started, and everybody was coming. And when they would look at me, they would say, hi. And I just look at them. I didn't say anything. But 3 or 4 people just came by and they said, hi. And I didn't say anything. So the last lady who came by, she said, I said hi to her, and she didn't respond. Is she crazy? And I just looked at her, and I grabbed Mama. I said, Mama, see, it don't work. She thought I was crazy anyway. That was just so bizarre to me, because the lady said, is she crazy? And Ma had already told me, don't say nothing about them, because they will think you crazy. I said, see, Ma, they thought I was crazy anyway, and I didn't say anything. So that was the end of that kind of stuff. My mother said, I don't know what to do. Just don't say it to everybody. So from that point on, she just had a firm watch me. But I didn't care. My life grew up, and I was so happy. Because as I got older, I realized that these gifts that I had were from the Creator, and I just needed to find somebody to help me with them. My grandma helped me a whole lot. My mama helped me a whole lot. And there were other people in my grandma world who helped me too, because back then a lot of black women had powers, and I attributed that to the slavery. When black people in America were enslaved, they had nothing and they had nobody to help them. So the Creator, in a sense, enhanced their powers so that they could protect themselves. He made a lot of women know how to do stuff. He gave them a lot of advantages in the mental department without the advantage of having to go to college. Because there were some women that I met was so powerful, people were afraid to even approach them. But if they needed those people's help, they would come to their house sometime late at night, because they didn't want to be seen, because they didn't want people to know there was a problem. It was a strange thing growing up in the South at that time, because I knew that there were powers on the earth that people never even thought of. But I always knew that they were there. So it's no wonder I grew up and became a tarot reader, because I understand energies. I understand that human beings possess certain energies that will connect to the universe, and that they could actually use those powers to help them do whatever they needed to do. I know that for a fact, because I did it all my life. I'm in the 70s now, and I don't really participate in the world too much now. But I did when I was younger. I would play games with people's minds just because I knew I could, which was probably not good. But I didn't hurt anybody. I just honed my skills. And as I got older and learned more and more about myself, and I studied with the greatest women in Louisiana, Florida, all over, who had those skills and told me what I needed to know. I would always meet someone who had someone in their family who could help me understand whatever it was that I had. And I always thought that was unique, but then I realized what you think is what you draw to yourself. I wanted those women to come in my world, therefore, I always either met their daughter or I met someone who knew them personally, and they would help me and they would send me to them people. And I usually would stay with them for a month or two and I would study and they would show me and they would help me with my skills. And as I got older, I got better and better and better. But anyway, let's talk about this. When I was out in the world, I knew about this energy long before other people would talk about it. And I used it to my advantage. I used it when I went and looked for a job. I used it when I created my social world. I used it when I decided to date someone. I could figure out what man was this or what man was that and what I should do about him. I became so good at, well, let me just say, I've always drawn men. So, but I came up in the era when sex was such a big deal. It's like people had just discovered sex starting in the 70s. And that was when I was in my 20s. And it got so bad that when you meet a man, a guy, he would ask you your name and then he would probably say, let's go and have sex. Sex had became such a nothing, just common. Let's go and have sex. I dance with you, so will you go to my house and we'll have sex? They became animals about sex. That is when all these children who came into the world without the privilege of mother and father. That's when all these women started having babies that without the benefit of husbands during that era, and it continued and it continued to the point of where it is today, where a lot of young kids have never had the really proper raising, therefore they don't know what to do with themselves and the energies that they possess and the energies that's strong on this earth right now. They have no idea of how to handle it. I sometimes go out and do what I can, but I'm not. There's something else that needs to be done. But in any event, then when I was dating, I really wasn't interested in sex per se. I always thought sex was sacred and that you should do it with someone you love or your husband, basically. So it became a real big game with me and men. They actually thought that they could con me, and I would end up conning them. It was such an easy game to do. I would always get my money and my gifts and stuff and wouldn't do a damn thing. Because I knew how to manipulate their energy, and I knew how to get what I wanted without giving them what they wanted. It became such a big deal with me, I eventually had to quit because I felt bad for them. But because when it was like this, they would say, I gave you some money before, and you said that you were going to do it, and you didn't. And I would say, oh, I know, but I promise this time, if you give me the money, or if you give me what I asked for, I will do it when I come back. I promise I'll come back and we'll do it. And they were so silly, I would manipulate their head so, and they were just like, okay. And they would give it to me. The game I played is called Masturbation of the Mind. That's what I named it. If you can masturbate a man's mind, you don't have to have sex. He don't even know he didn't have sex. He's so happy, he think he had sex. So when you can masturbate a man's mind, and if you don't masturbate a man's mind, you will never have that man, not really. It's a skill that you need to pick up. Maybe I'll teach you how to do it, but it look like right now times are so out of control. I don't know if I want to tell you how to do it. But in any event, that's enough about me. I wanted you to know that when I speak on things, I speak from an authoritative point because I know what I'm talking about. I've lived this life, I've traveled this road, and I've had an excellent life. I came from a wonderful family, beautiful family, happy as a kid, never had to stress, never had to do anything. My mother was such a perfect mother. It was 6 children, and we all thought we were the only child, and that's the truth. She had this way of making you feel so special. I remember a lot of times when I would look around and see those other kids, my brothers and sisters in the house, and I would think, really think, why are they here? Because I was thinking I was the only child. And then it would hit me. Oh, these are your brothers and sisters. But that's just the way my mother was. She was so perfect. I feel sorry for people who didn't have mothers like my mother. She loved us unconditionally. She loved us in the Maya way. She loved us and taught us, spent time with us, and made us strong. My mother made me so strong I was able to go to the white school in 1965 among all those crazy white people. I ain't never in my life seen such crazy people as those white kids were in a small town in Georgia who did not want integration. I was so, but they were entertaining to me because I had that gift and I could mess with them and they never knew what was happening. I realized a lot of people black kids had transferred to the white school, but they couldn't stay because the white kids were so mean and evil and nasty, and they intimidated a lot of the black kids, but they never ever intimidated me. I intimidated them, and they was like, who is she? Why she act like that? They had never in their life seen anything like me and haven't since. But that's okay. I lived, and I'm hoping they live, blah, blah, blah. I don't care what happened to them. Never went to a damn reunion, class reunion. They would invite us. I'm like, you actually think I would come to a class reunion with a bunch of white people getting drunk and mad with me from integrating in school? They would probably kill me if I went. So I never mingled. I wasn't no mingler with white people. I don't have nothing against white people. Well, yes, I do. I just think they're kind of crazy. So I stayed out their path and they stayed out mine. All my life, I never really hung out with white people because I never understood the slavery issue and the treatment of us. So I just wasn't interested in that. But in any event, as my powers grew, and I really started thinking about Christianity, and I was going to church, and at one time I was really into church. You know, because you grow up in a society where church is the thing, and everybody goes to church. And so, but I would go to church, and I just never could feel it. Everybody would start being all happy with the Jesus story and stuff, and I just never thought it made any sense to me. And I was like, this ain't right. So my mother told me, she says, look, I want you to look into this, because she had her purpose was raising her children. And she go to church. She was a big church leader and all like that. And so was my daddy. My daddy was head of the deacon board. as well as he was a liquor seller and everything else. He sold liquor to the world. But in any event, she told me before she died, she said, will you spend time trying to find out what you can about the story of the Bible and Jesus? Because it has to be a backstory, and I never could do it. So will you do that for me? And I told her, yes, I would. So I spent the rest of my life investigating, seeking knowledge about the Bible and everything. And most people don't even know who wrote the Bible. You can ask your people who are so dedicated to the Christianity. So you say, who wrote the Bible? Oh, it don't matter who wrote the Bible. I'm like, it does matter who wrote it. It is at first they used to say, it is the inerrant word of God, and that proved to be true, not true. And then they say, well, it's just the truth. Now, it does have a lot of truth in it. It does. It has things that I really think are very good for humans to know. But the Bible has been so exploited from the pulpit and everywhere else. People don't even realize how evil the Bible has turned into. Not the Bible itself, but the people who use the Bible to control the masses of people have made it to be an evil book. Look around you. Look at those big mega churches. The only thing those big mega churches did was make them men richer than they need to be, rich as cream, arrogant, crazy, 2 planes in the family, Rolls Royces. That was all that what the mega churches were and what they are at this point. But the beauty of it all is that it's changing. We have gotten to a point in the world today about Age of Aquarius, and that's where we are right now. It is so exciting to me that I lived in 2 ages. I lived at the end of Pisces, and now that we are in Age of Aquarius, I am so excited because the energies that's here are the energies that I can understand. I understand that there are 4 elements: earth, air, water, and fire. And look at the planet right now. Look at what it is experiencing, because the Age of Aquarius is a cleansing period. It is the age of reckoning with everything. And I wrote a book called Age of Aquarius, Spiritual Reckoning. And I knew that this would come about. I knew that spiritual reckoning was going to occur. And look at what is happening today. Isn't it interesting? And I wrote that book in 2018, Age of Aquarius, Spiritual Reckoning, because I knew that the forces that be, that really rule this world, was tired of the misrepresentation of spirituality through Christianity and religion. I am a spiritualist. I've been a spiritualist for a very long time. I don't attend a regular church like most people do. Most people go because they're looking for something. They know that something is better than what they know, but they are unable to access it from this side because they have not gained the wisdom, or they have not listened to the wisdom that they have inside. Now, what is happening, the people who did not listen are changing. The new kids on the block are different from the kids that I grew up with. Knowledge is something that's floating in the air. There is so much knowledge around until people are confused. That's what's causing all the things that you see happening, is the influx of the Age of Aquarius knowledge. It is a unveiling. It is a clearing up. It is a reckoning. It is a time that we are going through where there is a spiritual reckoning happening on the universe, because the really spirituality comes from the universe. It is the spirituality of the universe that's causing all of this upset. In every country you see, there's a problem. There are major problems with the people. There are major problems with the elements of the universe because of the spiritual reckoning. Now, how is it that I knew in 2018 that there would be a spiritual reckoning? Isn't that something? That you would know stuff like that and you would write a book about it. And that's what I did. So people who want that book, I would prefer you not going on Amazon and get it. Email me at Merritt, MERRITT, MEME 12 at gmail.com. That's Merritt, MERRITT, MEME 12 at gmail.com. I sell it for $1 less than Amazon. So if you want the signed copy of the book, email me and I'll gladly get it out to you. The price is very reasonable. I'm only selling it for $5 because I want people to have it and I want them to see how this thing is going to unfold. And I would prefer you getting it from me so that I can bless it and give you some kind of real experience about understanding your energy and what is happening right now. I've noticed that young kids are being born with genius minds. They're little kids now that know more than doctors at Yale or any higher learning institution. It's because it's becoming a spiritual change is happening and unveiling a new world in the age of Aquarius is being presented to the universe. I won't see the whole thing because each age is here like 2,500 years. So I'm at the beginning. I was at the end of Pisces and I'm at the beginning of Age of Aquarius. That is why you see so much turmoil. It's like what I call it is like giving birth. A woman goes through great pain when she's in labor and giving birth to her new child. And then, but once the baby comes, the pain is forgotten. That is the area, that's what we're going through right now on this universe, in the universe and on Earth. That is why so much confusion, so much everything, chaos, all of it, because people are not understanding what is happening. Their inner souls are confused. And that is what's causing all the mishaps, the killings, everything. Because of what we... But if you contact me, I can help you. I can make you understand what is happening. I can make you have peace because I understand it. And I'm a spiritualist. And I've been practicing this for a very long time. Even before I was introduced to it formally, I knew of it in my soul and I did it. So I'm going to end this video right now with this. There is a way to cope with what's happening. There is a way for you to settle down on the inside and focus and pass through this time that we are going through right now because it's changing. Religion and all of that stuff, it's not going to be the same. The truth about it is out. It is no turning back. If you have noticed, I've noticed recently, there are a lot of men who are talking about leaving Christianity. I'm talking about big people who were major production leaders in the Christianity world. They have decided that it is not what they should do. I'm going to start videos with that subject, Christianity versus spirituality. That's going to be my thing for a while because there's a lot to be talked about. There's a lot to be discovered in that area because now it's changing and we want to be a part of it. Thank you for listening.